Steady, steady beat.
Alrighty, with the fade of the song, we are back here in Faceit Season 8. We have the Rat Milkers making their first debut appearance over here in Faceit with against Cold Tuna Org. Let me pop everything back up as I try to get that cinematic shot and failed quite happily at it. Here we go. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We have the bands up, being the Genji for the Rat Milkers, Kiriko for Cold Tuna Org, and we see a similar composition here. Want to do different thing. Locke going on to one of the new characters here, along with Zachary, one of the 5 introduced with this latest seasons. But besides that, Conru's going up forward. You haven't seen him in a while. He's an OG of Remember Me Classic here, making his debut once again after doing a numerous amount of side objectives in life. Picks up 2. Rats are going to be on the board first here. Speaking of which, you see the flex DPS here on the Vendettas here. Frost, the Tuna's flex DPS. Gonna go put some pressure on the point. Gonna split the attention up. Now you see 2 Vendettas swinging here on the right side of the angle. And you see Rats wanting to kite on over. Both teams running a very similar support line here of the Juno and the Masuki here. Fish, however, is going to be the first to trade out. Connor is going to go forward looking for any kills he can. Does not find it. Shut down by Cold Tuna. And the rest is history. Rats up 37%. Tuna going to take that point flip up, now counting at 5. A very similar comps. The only real difference here is the tanks. Due to the recent patch, I do think Ramacher does irk out a spot, especially against this Zarya, but I know the Rats have been practicing this Zarya Vendetta comp. I don't see Vendetta going anywhere in this meta. But here comes the... I don't even know what this ult is technically called. I call it Autobots. Finds not 1 but 2. Finds Silver in the backline. Moves along with Conru's Frost. Cleaning up Fish here quickly. A 1 ult fight for Cold Tuna. They're going to take that. No ults used on the side of the Rats here. Talking of which, they do have 2 ults. They do have the Autobot. And I believe it's like Sanctuary or something like that from the Masuki on the side of Locke. So Locke is up on the support ults. However, the Juno on the opposite side here for Cold Tuna is up. Talking about which, here it comes out, and you see going in. Zachary finding one onto the Juno here with his ultimate. Annihilation pops. Zachary put down in the grave. The sustain via that Juno ult was great. A late Masuki ult here, but they would just want to clutch this out. Tuna does win this ult trade, but 3 ults used on the side of Tuna for the 2 for the Rats. You saw that Masuki, they wanted to use it as the shield to go forward. Talking about a different approach from the Rats. They're going to go under here, giving up a lot of angles here. Here comes the Sundering Blade over for Cold Tuna. Gets a lot of damage on Zover and is in trouble here. Still needs some help. Finally get it. The Masuki heals a bit slower on that. Talking about which, the Ramacher, you see the survivability of him. Here comes the Sundering Blade for Fish. Does get 1 here. However, 2 traded out for Cold Tuna. Coming in is a 3v3 right now. Healthier is looking on the side of the Rats. Silver eventually does get Frost on the side of Cold Tuna. Zachary traded out, but in the midst of that, Rats do get it. Talk about which, Cold Tuna gonna use Emery's ultimate here, trying to get the clutch it out. Conru's left alone, not getting the support he needs, falls down. So while saying the Rats did get the point, it looks like the point's gonna flip. However, Fish on point here. Masuki goes down. Fish traded out next here. Rats do get a little point presence here at 79%. However, that fight lost quite quickly here, and it's going to be Conru's to touch as Cold Tuna is looking to shut the door here. Grab good for 3 here. However, no follow-up here. Zachary is going to be there. Fish is on point along with Locke. And the staggers kills just come in. Cold Tuna are going to take Mecha Base 100 to 79. Good morning, Wispy. How are you doing? It's good to see you back as we head into Shrine here. Rats. Right now, down 1-0 on map, but not in the series. Alright, here we go. Rats making a bit of a composition swap, going off of that Zarya, but for the most part, everything else pretty much staying the same. On the side of Cold Tuna, you do see the Ana pick coming through with the Juno hit. My bad. Connor's going down, however. Tank trade is in favor. I'm going to go over to Fish's POV. Scratch that. I'm gonna go over to Locke. No, there's Fish. Fish. Ooh, Zachary. 40 HP does get the trade onto the Ana, so that's gonna be a late stagger for a Cold Tuna. They're gonna be down 1 support. Talking about which, Fish looking for any type of support here. But the Ana, you see, quickly, immediately switches off to the Cat. However, I'm just a bit confused on how Rats didn't take the point at all. Tuna's going to be the first one to get flipped here. And you can see the damage has come in for the Rats here. They're playing at the end of it. Fish found out with some torpedoes on the back via Cold Tuna's Juno here. I'm going to go over to player cams. As you see the rest of Rats in difficult situations. Zover getting traded out. Right about now, Connors is going to be the last supporting member of the Rats. If you don't count Zachary, who is a bit out of the fight right now, does get 1 here. But so far, the Rats have still yet to take point presence here, as it is 40% to nothing. You do see their damage numbers, though, and the alts right now. Zachary ahead of his Emery counterpart on Cold Tuna. He's going to have that alt. The Juno, of course, of Zover. Gonna have theirs about mid-fight. Zachary's gonna open this file, try to find some kills onto it. You see, throw a shot over to this Emery, does not find anything. And now it's 2. Zachary gets the better of that alt duel on the Emerys. Here comes the annihilation for it. Zachary might have overextended himself a little bit here. But talking about which, both orbitals out now. Fish finds his counterpart on the flex DPS. Cat ult used, however, it is going to be Locke versus the Cat. We'll go over to this beautiful support duel. Cat tried to kill him, but the Cat is going to reset quickly as his team are falling on the point. Rats finally established dominance here. 83% for Cold Tuna, 10 and counting for the Rats. Not expending too many ults, and you do see the switch off of the Cat to the Illari. Agreed a bit more damage here. Illari did get a reduction in, I think, the fire rate, if I'm not mistaken, but still very... Here comes the Sundering Blade for the side of Cold Tuna. Does find Conruz, eats all of that damage, and I'm pretty sure Conruz just Panopticon jaxed. I don't know how you make that word witty, but yeah, he did that. 2 of the Rat Milkers fall. After that is Locke and Fish going down. So it is 87% as Cold Tuna has found the point flip here. Zachary going down. Question is, who's going to touch? Looks like Fish is setting up for it. It's over. Conruz also ready for it. Conruz is going to have to take a lot of front-facing damage for it. Fish does get the point. Overtime is good. Conruz already out of his suit. The Sanctuary no good to help it, but it's going to buy the Rats a bit more time. Talking about which, here comes Zachary once more with his ultimate. He needs to come up big here, but the only person right now finding kills is Fish. Never mind, Zachary does find the 1. Zover, the support of the Rats is getting targeted by Frost. Rats clutch that out with some big ultimates and some big plays over here on the DPS side to eventually get the point flip and shut Cold Tuna out of this fight. Cold Tuna only needs one fight win, though, at 99%. Rats are at 53 and counting. Let's go over to Fish's POV as he's 97 to Pulse Bomb, and quite frankly, could do wonders for his team. Ultimates you're going to be looking for over here on Cold Tuna. You know, that Orbital Ray is going to come out mid-fight. Ramatra, 92% and counting, only has 8%. Fish is looking for it. Fish is looking, gets it! The Orbital Ray is not going to come out. However, a 1-for-1 trade. Support for support here. And the Enry on side of Cold Tuna does get them. Someone needs to get on point. Fish is going to zap forward to Vega on the Cold Tuna on side of... Gets a kill. Here comes the Sun via Cold Tuna. A lot of members of Rat Milkers are low. Orbital Ray is now out for Cold Tuna. This might be the door shut as Vega finds 2 here. Oh, with those support ults coming up online at the end of it, Rat Milkers do fall short of the win here. It's 1 old Cold Tuna, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, we are back. Now, Runasapi is going to be our next map. Bans are as followed. Tuna, going to be banning out the Zarya. Rat Milkers, going to be banning the Sojourn. Really want to play on that Emery character coming here. Rats down 1-0, looking to keep themselves alive in this series, not to head to match point. See a very similar comp that they've been running in their scrims here. Going to be that Juno Kiriko back online via that Kiriko ban, and you see the same thing on the opposite side here. However, difference in composition styles. You see Conru's onto it. Zover finding some good headshots in that mid-engage. So with that being said, the Rats, of course, are going to push the tempo, try to find some kills. Suzu forced out. Frost going deep, trying to find some kills. Zachary eventually puts it down. So that should be the end of this fight unless some cheeky picks come in for Cold Tuna, but does not look like it. We're talking about which, yeah, you see a more aggressive brawl style. Rats do lose a player when I'm trying to talk about their compositions, but that is alright. Because it looks like Cold Tuna is going to give some space here. No, they're going to try to take that 4v5. Yeah, but so Cold Tuna running more of a rush style here with that Queen Reaper. You got the Lucio for there for speed, and of course, if you're playing Lucio, might as well be running Kiriko. Zachary is the one to get caught out there and didn't get kite quite as well as you'd hoped. Cold Tuna approaching the golden line right now, going to probably take the lead as the rest of the Rat Milkers are setting up to fight inside this bookstore, or this quilt store. Is it a quilt store? It's a quilt store. You see Zover on a devious little angle there, taking some pot shots on to the Vendetta of Tuna. Speaking of which, ooh, that Reaper trying to get Zachary there does get pounded out. Fish with 2 beautiful overhead slices does find the DPS line of Cold Tuna. And right now, Queen's trying to hold on to a little more. Hopefully his team catches the respawn, but no good. Lucio on the side of Cold Tuna is going to go down next. But Cold Tuna right now in the driver's seat at 41.77 meters. Right now, Rats behind at 25. First player to step up here for Cold Tuna is going to look like the Ven. However, is spotted out early. Some beautiful nade damage. It's just going to chip away a little bit at that armor. But here comes the rush by Cold Tuna. Shout, beat. Continuing rush on the side of Rat Milkers here. A lot of low players here. Fish is trying to even this up with a Sundering Blade as 2 of the Rats fall short. Only finds some damages onto the Queen. Conru's 1 HP and out of mech. They kill Conru's quite fast. That could have been a tragic stagger, but luckily no trigger control on the side of Tuna. They are going to get point flip once. Are you serious? For Sorry if any NA production things. We are still trying to get back into the swing of this like that. We have Emery's ult coming out. Conruz, however, is going to be finding the value here of it. Speaking of which, Zachary picks up 2 with that ult. Just does so much damage. However, a tragic loss of mech for Conruz. Gonna leave him a bit defenseless here. We're gonna go over to... Let's see if we can go over to Conruz. He's trying to build this mech. 57% and counting. Ult for ults, though. You do have Sundering Blade coming up for Cold Tuna. Gonna be an answer for this beat that Locke does have, but they have to build it before Locke has it. However, they're not gonna use that because Conruz out of mech. They do get the kill onto it. Beat comes out to answer the Death Blossom, and it was good. It saved Conruz from dying. It gets him into that mech. It's D.Va versus D.Va as we see a Queen swapped away. Locke going down here. Rats are down a support for no other players on the opposite side. Some beautiful eats trying to keep his team up, but Conruz does have Bomb. Frost does have that Sundering Blade on the side of Cold Tuna. You see Fish going down, however, does trade the Brigitte out on the opposite side. Rats, however, going with their tail between their legs, needs a bit of some TLC, gets it. He is going to back away slowly and take this fight. You see Rats do not want to give this checkpoint up here, and here comes the Sundering Blade. You see it's set up. Ooh, not going to pull the trigger on it, but you see that Frost eager to use that. I'm talking about it. Here it is. Looking for a target. Does find Zachary on the end of that Sundering Blade. Conruz pushes forward with the bomb. Fish going to try to answer it. Does get 1, so a 1 for 1 on both Sundering Blades. However, Conruz going down. Locke about to do it. And with Zach being an early pick off there, Rats are going to have to retreat. Hopefully not die. Zover does get out here of the fight. However, Tuna does get the forward spawns here with that checkpoint. And with a little more meters gained, it's in their favor currently. But talking about in their favor, they can go Kitsune for Kitsune if they want. However, they're just going to pop the rally as they are up in ults here and then can build a Reaper in the middle of it. Frost finding Zachary before anything can get really done with his ultimate. And it looks like the rest of the Rats are just falling apart here on Runasapi, as Tuna is going to keep pressing forward still with a bit of a considerable ult bank. They have that Kitsune Rush to use for free. They have the D.Va Bomb for that remix. Sundering Blade and Reaper ult could come up in this fight. Scratch that. Only Reaper could probably come up in that fight as Frost is found early by the Rats here. Here comes the Kitsune Rush. Connors, however, goes deep and does not find the answer, but he does find one. Does die. Locke boops the Reaper and then jumps into it. You gotta start questioning why your Lucio is turbo feeding there. However, that Reaper does find the calls. The answers he was looking for. Does get the kill. Zover is gonna go down last here. So Rats are gonna have to fight this 4v5 here. Little on the back foot, and this map is getting quite a ways away from them. 119 meters is where Rats are gonna finally stop it for the engage. Connor's already at half health here. Locke's going to try to push the tempo here with the beat as he knows Vega does not have it. The only ults the Cold Tuna does have is the bombs, so their D.Va can stay a little bit healthier. Connor's notice the Vendetta is low. Tries to go after it, does not get it. However, they do get some space control. Here. Frost does have that Sundering Blade for Cold Tuna. So does Fish. We might see that in the middle of the fight. Zachary slowly building up to his ultimate on the Emery. Frost is going to be the first one to pull the trigger and finds the damage he does. Zachary's over, going down. Fish is going to be answering it again second. Finds one. Conruz finds a pick onto it and is up. So it is a tank versus a DPS, flex DPS and a DPS. Talk about which, that's a scratch on my part. So it is just 2 DPS and a tank versus the combined might of Zover, Locke, and Zachary. They're going to fall back a bit. But I would not be surprised if the engage would come quite soon here. Even before, I'd say, checkpoint. I'm going to go over to a Zachary POV, as he does have this Emery ult and has found 2 every time he's used it. Here he goes, throws one shot into the Diva, does not find it. He's trying to find some fight onto the Kiriko. The Ripper on the opposite side of Cold Tuna does rip it, does do a few more damage, however, does not get it. You see the power of that downward swing from the Vendetta finding Zack, but the damage has been done. Frost going down, and so is the Kiriko that did have the Kitsune rush for the fight for the Tuna. Goes down, beat for 2. The Reaper, they were trying to get him to survive that engage, does not. So if Rax can stack these next few ultimates, they should be in the driver's seat. Kitsune for Kitsune maybe is what you're going to be seeing next fight. But during that middle of the fight, Locke could very much build his beat. Conruz again has the mech. They're about equal there. And Zachary still needs to build up to his next ultimate. Conruz trying to take care of this fabric shot, trying to make sure the Reaper doesn't get the value he needs inside it. You see the TP behind. Zachary's the only one to hear it. Attention split. Kitsune rush for Kitsune rush. Here comes Beat. Good for 2. Only finds Locke and Fish here for the side of the Rats. However, the Tuna looking quite dangerously low here. No kills have been traded out. Locke eventually does get the kill. Connors throws the bomb out but dies. Not worth it. That the Kiriko does find a shot onto it. So Rats are out a tank. They weren't able to capitalize on the ults being used. However, Zachary does find one more. You see the Rats pushing forward. They're confident that since they got that kill, they can do this. 129 meters for Cold Tuna. Rats are now sitting at 55. Does get the checkpoint. However, the respawns are quite closer for Cold Tuna. Gonna force them back. Locke going down here. Fish gonna pop this Sundering Blade. Trying to get any damage. Gets the mech out. However, Cold Tuna does have the ults in response. Does pop the Kitsune. Does pop the Sundering Blade as well. And that's going to be all she wrote on Runasapi for the Rats. As Tuna go up 2-0. Alright, and with that, that concludes the intermissions as we're going to head to Rialto. Rat Milkers on the verge of losing their first map in this Faceit season to Cold Tuna Org. Take us to Rialto. The bans are as followed. You got Diva ban out for Cold Tuna Org. And Rats banning the Lucio here. We'll see what they cook up here. It looks like they're going to go back to their standard comp with a bit of a switch up for the main support. Going to go on to that Wu Ying. But we'll talk about that more. No, it's time to talk about our Twitter account. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Remember Me has a Twitter account, and if you are a fan of anything or at Milkers or Remember Me, do give us a follow there. See it on screen right now. It's X Remember Me with a capital R and capital M _ OW, both capitalized. Besides the obligatory Twitter post, going over to the game, you see a standard composition that the Rats have been running. Frost does find Zover with a bit of this spam damage here. Only thing that can really take care of this Pharah is going to be Zachary, so his attention has to be split on trying to weave in this damage, but also make sure this Pharah can't keep poking her head out as freely as she is right now. But speaking of which, this composition on the side of Cold Tuna is actually perfect suited for what they're doing right now. You have the poke via the Ashe. You have that spam damage being the Pharah. Sigma Shield is going to help and give the protection to that backline of the Ashe and the Illari here. And right now, Rats are having a quite difficult time cracking through. Talking about which, with a bit of an overextension and out of LOS from his supports, Saf on the side of the Cold Tuna does lose his life, and that's going to open up this map quite a bit for the rest of the Rat Milkers here. But talking about overextending, I think Fish got overzealous wanting to stuff them into this archway. And no good. Zachary does find the kill onto the Pharah, so it is going to be a 4v4 going into this next team fight. At least for a little while. Ooh, never mind. It is now a 3v4 in favor with the kill onto the Kiriko. they're open to getting sunblasted by Vega, and that's exactly what to do. Is Vega has found 2, 1 with the sunburst, 1 just by raw damage with the assist of the Ashe, of course. That being said, though, ultimate's coming up on the board for every single player. Conru's the tank for Rat Milker is currently low. 47% to Grav. Can't really do too much in this fight. Zachary getting picked off by a Kiriko. Probably with a few kunai going into the head and then 1 into the body, maybe. Could have been assist. Overwatch not too great on it. So right now, Overwatch... Rat Milkers need to calm down for just a sec. Here comes Zachary's ult from the corner alleyway. Does not get too many ults. Rat's going to pop some more ultimates. They're going to put that damage on to Zaf here via the Sundering Blade. Finds the picks onto it and the Illari. However, Zover tries to take an angle here. Gets it. Bob does go wide, but does have enough to stop the payload, and Justice does find its mark. Locke and Zachary going to be put away for a long time with Bob circling out. Cold Tuna, some beautiful ultimates used to stop the payload and then capitalize with the barrage. They are still up in ultimates in this next fight. Coming here with the Graviton Flux and the Kiriko. The Kitsune Rush, however, Zover does have the Kitsune Rush on the side. Connors is still yet to build his Grav. We're going to go over to his POV to see what exactly he's struggling with. 85, he could build it in this mid-fight. This Kitsune Rush needs to come out for the Rats. Here comes the Kitsune. Here comes the Rush. Connor is going to absorb a lot of damage here, but Fish already going down, probably with the 1-2 combo of that Ashe and that Illari with the... Connors eventually does build it, does get 2 on it, but his team is falling apart around him. It looks like it's tragic for the Rats, as that's all she wrote for their attack, not even getting to first checkpoint here. Rats have to go for the 4 hold here on Rialto to keep this match alive. Remember, they are on match point. With Conru struggling so much on that Zarya, I would love to see a switch off. Didn't, looking at these stats right now, didn't contribute much to these fights. Those bubbles onto Fish probably kept him alive for a bit longer than he was supposed to. However, not a lot of value for coming in from the tank, and those bubbles, no offense to Fish, we're going to find those marks. Maybe found it once or twice. But you do see the issues getting resolved here at Conrad's. Going over to that Sigma. Fish going over to the Echo. And of course the other swaps being Zachary going on to the Ashe. He was on that Emery. Didn't find too much value of his ultimates that we've been seeing from him. But is the damage leader for the side of the Rats. On the opposite side, we see a Beaver... We did see a Beaver comp. We don't know if Vega is going to stay onto that Kiriko, or they're going to go onto the Illari. This Illari BAP comp has been coming out quite a fair bit recently. It greeds a lot of damage, however, BAP does have that support, and honestly, Illari still is a decently strong healer. Speaking of which, you see Rats, instead of taking this corner, they're going to take this high ground, play back a little bit. So they're going to surrender this first corner over. And honestly, you'd love to see Conru's drop eventually. Here does it. So they're going to be fighting for this corner. This is what's going to be the stalemate. This is no man's land right here. Talking about which that Ashe 1 HP and a Dream. Vish does find the kill onto the Illari. So they're going to be down 1. However, Rats are also down 1 here with Cold Tuna having the advantage here. Connors eats a rock, but gets back up. Keeps fighting. Connors is found out. His supports were too busy dueling. I think a Tracer on the side with Fish. This just might be it, folks. Zachary does find 1 kill, but there's only so much one Ashe can do against 4 different opponents here. Golden box of victory inching. No one's going to be touched. Zachary goes down. Connor's going to be the one to step up, but does not get it. Unfortunately, Rat Milkers go down 3-0 in their first game. And with that being said, that's going to be it for the broadcast tonight. Hope everyone has a great night. And if you do like it, remember to follow us on Twitter. Drop a subscriber on the YouTubes if you're watching post-VOD, or come over to the Twitch. Drop a subscriber or a follow. Either way, we do appreciate your time, and thank you very much for your